This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the podcast today, Ben Kjar. Welcome, my friend.
I'm so happy to be here. Serious. We've been trying to connect forever, and you're just such a powerhouse, and I really mean that, but in a genuine way.
Yeah.
And I just love, Mark, how we were just chatting about this, right? You just play full go.
Yeah.
And like no holds bar, full send. And that takes a long time to for some people to buy into, right?
Yeah.
I'm the type of person, for me personally, that that was always in me. I had some people when I was younger tell me that, don't do that. But it was against them because they were afraid to be out. And so they didn't want me to be out there. Right.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, I felt like suffocated. But the fact that you're just like, screw it, let's go, baby. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think, and I know that as people do that and flex who they are, not everyone else, and what everyone else thinks they should be,
yeah,
then that's when it's like, man, you're like flexing you. And there's no better flex to be than you 100% sincerely, genuine, like real version of you. You know what I'm saying? I always say, be you 1.0. Instead of like everybody else, Tom, Dick, and Harry 2.0, man.
Yeah.
That's not sexy. It's not attractive. Though you may think it's cool to smell like him, look like him, be built like him, it's not, man. Don't think like you have to dress like them, right?
Yeah.
Even though you and I kind of match today, you know?
Yeah, we're working on it, yeah. Get that lumberjack in us.
Yeah, so I just appreciate that genuine approach about you, man. And the way you love is like, if you killed anyone in life, it would probably be a suffocation of a hug.
I should try that.
You should try that. I think some of the most dangerous men in the world, there's one of my good buddies, his name's Walt Bayless. Mm-hmm. If you know, if anybody listening or watching right now knows the jiu-jitsu world, he is absolutely one of the most iconic individuals. Before I met him, I called him the unicorn.
Yeah.
And I used to run basically a combat sports gym called Kingdom Training Facility. And I brought Walt out of retirement. And I want to say this. I've learned that some of the most dangerous people in the world aren't the ones that are sitting over in the corner angry. Just like Walt, similar to you. He will love you and suffocate you to death with hugs, dude.
Yeah.
But he can also kill you with his pinky.
Yeah.
And there's stories of him against the Gracies and him against my other good buddy, Mark Schultz, who was played by Channing Tatum in a movie called Foxcatcher. And those individuals, they can just be super kind individuals. And I think that's what the world construes men the wrong way. You got to be angry. You can't show any you can't show any love. You can't be vulnerable, man. You have tears coming out of your eyes. That's poison, man. We don't do that. That's more of a dangerous life in the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
And so I just appreciate that about you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, by the way, for the compliment. But I agree with you, man. I've been saying this for years. Like, I want people to show up their authentic 100% self. Mm. And I think everyone that does that, it's real freeing for them, you know, especially when they have kind of hid things about them. I have a friend, she's a nurse, right? And literally last night she was over having dinner with my wife and I, and she's been on a little bit of a journey recently where she's trying to like find happiness again. And she kind of had a breakthrough last weekend. And she's like, yeah, so I just went to work and I'm not holding back the funny things that I think in my head. And because people love it and they love interacting with me and and I'm like, yeah, lesson learned, you know, like it's time for you to be you. Like how many years are we going to wait when people aren't being themselves? Sometimes it's hard to watch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even in our men's group, right? So, you know, the way we met is through, you know, Jimmy Rex's We Are the They group, or WAT.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the growth of different guys, right? I mean, you can see the guys, we know them. The guys are super confident right off the bat, and other guys are kind of like, I don't know how to engage, and I call it ego, right? The ego is what people use to protect themselves in the world, you know, how they show up, how they interact with people. And I like that when people kind of soften their ego up a little bit, you know, and they're more receptive to others. And it's like, you know, every time they just have an amazing experience. You know, I get to know this guy, and, you know, I get to learn this about him, and he saw me and I saw him, and, you know, we just basically exchange. And it's like, that's really what's beautiful in life. And then going to the beach.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I love traveling. See, and the fun thing with you, Ben, is like there's a lot of people that look up to you. Do you feel that?
Maybe. Like sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes people tell you, sometimes you don't, and sometimes you don't know when it's genuine or not, and they're just saying it. Yeah. But like life's beautiful, you know. Life's good, and so I just try to play as big and as authentic as I can, and whatever that looks like for someone else is good. I've also learned that it's not necessarily about people looking up to you or not. It's about being the true authentic you, and whatever that looks like, it looks like. Because I also know when I go authentic, some people don't like it. Mm-hmm. And that's them. And all you have to do is just go on social media or go on my YouTube channel, and you'll see them. You'll see the comments.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll see what people say about my adoption and what that means to them and their belief, or what I look like, and how they thought I was the star of the Goonies with the Superman shirt, the sloth. That seems to be like the go-to thing. And so me and my wife laugh about that. But
does that ever bother you?
It used to, big time, but not anymore. Because once you realize, and I genuinely say that,
yeah.
Once you realize who you are, and you found a mate, because I think that's the biggest fear of somebody. Like, well, oh man, what's my girlfriend gonna think? What's my wife gonna think? Is she gonna stop loving me? Once you find someone who loves you, no matter what, and I wouldn't say no matter what, you can't treat her like a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As long as that relationship is in core and priority, what other people say or think, like my wife has red hair, strawberry blonde hair, however you say that.
Yeah.
And if I'm like, you ginger this or you ginger that, or, you know, or if somebody else said that, you better believe I'll defend her.
Yeah.
But for her and I, when it comes on social media or YouTube, it's kind of funny. We actually get bored. Hopefully this doesn't come across the wrong way, because we love genuine and kind people.
Yeah.
Those comments come across quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And so we go through those and we're grateful for them. But we like the spicy ones. And we actually enjoy reading them. And those are the ones that my wife sends me every day, because she gets the notifications. Yeah. And she only sends me the ones that are the spicy ones. And then she's like, go get them, baby. Because we've made it a challenge. Not a challenge. Well, a challenge maybe. We've made it a promise to ourselves that we return and we respond with freaking kindness.
Yeah.
Because I think more people, whether people are believers and followers in Jesus, that he was an incredible superhuman hero, character. I mean, whether people think he's real or not, or just like a figment in people's imaginations, or part of history, or just a prophet, or just a good dude, whether he was their savior or not. to look at him and to think he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and bleeding through all his pores because of the massive stress that he went through. Go out, all of his comrades are freaking sleeping on the job and they're supposed to be protecting him. And then one of his 12 homies goes and trades him for as much money was, I think back then was like the amount of a slave or a worker, slaps the money down in front of him and is like, hey, yeah, that's Jesus, the dude that you're looking for. And then after all that, his other buddy comes up and slices the ear of the guy trying to capture him. I bring this point up because he was the one that didn't grab the sword and slice the other ear up. He was the one in the moment of all the stress, of all the pain, of all the targeting, of all the betrayal from his friends, that he grabbed the ear and he put it back on the guy's head and he healed it. He was the guy on the cross that looked down at the money changers looking up, betting on him. And who knows, betting on him for when's he going to die? You know, putting the money down. And he was the one that said, you know what? Forgive them for they do not know what they do, right? And so if I can just be like a little bit more like that and return not eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, even though that's what I want to do, right? I mean, let's be real. You're going to be a liar, at least for me. I would be a liar having trained the majority of my life in mixed martial arts to not want to punch him back. Yeah. Like, you punch me, I'm like, wah! Uppercut, dude, freaking jaw. Yeah. That's what I want to do. And that naturally, I think that's what the world wants to do. You spit in my eye, dude, I'm freaking spitting back in both of your eyes, right? And that feels good for the moment. But I believe there's power in a pause. I call it focus for 5. If we focus for like 5 seconds, sometimes it takes us 5 days, there's people listening to this that it's 5 years later and they still haven't talked to that loved one. They still haven't talked to their freaking son because of that one moment of what they thought was betrayal. It was their fault. And I believe that when we come back with kindness, when we come back with love, then there's, even though you're not right, even though you may not be the one at fault, I should say, then there's at least a connection of rapport. And Mark, in life, in mankind, I believe that's what we lack. We lack connection.
Absolutely.
Human connection. You said you like to travel. I love traveling. Me and my wife have been to, 40, 45 countries about now. And that's one thing I love to do is I love to get off the resorts and I love to get amongst the people. I'll never forget going to Africa and going way off to where me and my wife could have been murdered and never been found. No electricity in this little tribe town. And we sat down with this lady who had feet that probably had like an inch on her bottom of her feet of like just calluses, right? Because she didn't wear shoes. And by the midst of the light of the fire, she gave us in her language, and there's a guy there translating, her wisdom of what she would tell us about what life was. And she was the lady of the village. And we were able to connect. And so anyways, there's a lot of connection that I think that we miss out on when our ego is not our amigo, right? When our ego takes over, where connection gets to take place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting too. I think when people, the older you get, right, the more you want relationships with people and connections, and you look back on your life, and I think the things people regret are the relationships that they either let go or didn't foster or didn't cultivate. Then I think there's a whole group of people out there that just never learned to connect with people, right? I mean, even nowadays, man, most of the work I do, it's all email and text message, right? Like we don't talk all that much. And I think that brings a lot of sadness, you know. There's a lot of power in a hug or holding someone's hand or, or just being in the same room as them, sitting shoulder to shoulder and staring at something and talking. You know, those are the moments in life that are almost irreplaceable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe some people just don't know necessarily, and not to give them an out, but genuinely, I think some people just don't know how to be a good friend. And that was me for a long time. It was about like, sometimes I think you feel like you're the epicenter of your world, and you are of your world, but you think you're the epicenter of everyone else's world, where they get to be the epicenter of their world. They get to be the purpose. But I think when you feel like you live in everyone else's world as the epicenter, that's an issue. And you think it needs to be about you all the time. And for a lot of time in my life, I felt that was me because I was born with something called Crouzons syndrome, right? We've talked about this.
Yeah.
And I was born with a craniofacial difference, anomaly. And have you seen the movie Wonder?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're listening or watching this, the movie Wonder is about, it's not based on a true story, but it could be. It's about a boy with a facial difference. And he was, I believe he was going to private school. His dad is Owen Wilson in the movie. His mom's Julia Roberts, fantastic actresses, right? Or actress and actors, right?
Is this the movie the little boy looks like he has a skin graft kind of?
Kind of, yes.
His eye? Yeah.
Yes, and then he wears to school, or the first day he takes his space helmet,
Right. Yep.
just to cover his difference. And then his dad Owen's like, dude, he jokes around with him. He's like, dude, this isn't cool. I'll tell you. And he takes his helmet off. But I bring this up because when I was younger, not until I saw that movie did I realize my issue. If you go and watch that movie, it's about everybody's relationship around him and how he garnered his parents' attention, and it affected his other siblings' life. Because since they didn't have a facial difference or a visual, difference that was an obvious thing that needed attention sometimes because everyone saw it, it doesn't mean they didn't have issues that were not seen.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it was something that I remember going and watching the movie. I'm like, oh my gosh, other people have issues, other people have problems, even though you can't see them. And so it was interesting to see that. I think people, as you learn to be an incredible friend, and you learn to give, and you learn to think about other people when you shouldn't be thinking about them, when it's not expected to think about them, when it's not their birthday, when it's not Christmas or an anniversary, and it's just like, hey, by the way, dude, you got to eat Uber Eats at your house tomorrow night. It's a pizza party time, baby. I'll send it over at 5. That's what time you have dinner, right? Stuff like that. I think once people realize that and make other people a part of their life, those are the connections I think that are helpful.
Yeah, for sure. With your facial difference, how do you think that affected your life in your close relationships?
I think I remember at a young age, I told my mom that I would hope and pray that whatever girl I liked or ended up loving, that they would love me the same way.
Yeah.
At the level that I would love them. And one of my biggest fears growing up was that I would fall in love with someone who wouldn't love me back at the same level. I was really lucky, blessed, and I worked hard for it too, to become pretty successful in some areas. Wrestling, I decided to go down the rabbit hole and did well at, and got some notoriety for it. that was a blessing and could have been a curse for me too, if people were attracted to me because in high school you're a big deal. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, wrestling doesn't last forever. It's not like golf or pickleball, right?
Yeah.
It's something that only lasts for a certain amount of time. You have a window. And then after that, I'm like, what if I married the girl that just liked me because I was a wrestler or got notoriety because of this? So I had fears of that. In my home, there was no difference. I was treated zero differently. Like there was love given. My parents would cuddle me, not coddle me. There's a difference there, right? And they would get me up off my butt when I was crying because a kid made fun of me at school, or an adult made fun of me in the market or whatever. But they would get me back up super quick, tell me to dust my bum off that I was just sitting on, and they'd say, "Hey, you're different. We get it. So go make a difference. You're gonna stick out, man. Yeah. We get it. You're gonna cause attention that you probably don't want. So take the attention and shine. Yeah. Why don't you freaking stick out?" Because for a lot of my life, Mark, like, dude, I wanted to be normal so bad.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, I didn't want to stick out.
Why?
Because I hated the attention for something I didn't feel was good attention.
Right.
So, in other words, when I was younger, there'd be kids that would just make fun of me or make fun of the scars on my head because they would cut my head open from ear to ear. Yeah. And it can be cool when you get attention for what you feel like is the right stuff, for an award or for doing something, maybe winning a competition or running the fastest race. But when it's for something that you feel like people are looking down on you for, then oftentimes it wasn't wanted. And I'm like, dude, I'd rather not have the attention.
Right. I can see that. Funnily enough, I kind of know what it's like to have attention for the way you look because I'm a giant, you know? And it's interesting. I mean, I remember at Bear Lake when we were all up there together, right? We spoke. I
wasn't there, man. I was in Africa.
That's right, dude.
So I totally missed that. But tell me about it. I want to hear.
So I stood up. So we did a breath work session, right? And it only worked for me for maybe 10 minutes, right? We did it for like an hour, you know? So I ended up just sitting there. I was in the middle of the room and I sat up on my butt, you know, so I wasn't touching anybody so they could all have their experience by themselves. I was just kind of watching over everyone. And it was interesting to see people move and react and cry and smile and breathe, you know. Have you been in a breathwork session?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just real loud breathing basically, right?
Yeah.
And I just kind of observed people and it was interesting. And then, you know, everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people got up and kind of spoke after and said different things. And so I got up and like my first thing I said was, I'm like, you guys need to understand something about me, man. It's weird being me. Like, it's weird. Like I see people, like when I enter a room, because I have a lot of presence, right? And it's interesting to watch people interact with me. I can see it in their face, right? Where they're just like, oh, is he cool? Is he a dick? Is he, you know, like, is he like Igor? Like, oh, give me food, you know, like, and then like the more they get to know me, they're just like, you are like, so like people will say well-rounded or like, there's a lot of things about you I wouldn't expect, you know? And it's like, I know, and to me, I'm like, yeah, I know. Like I learned that a long time ago. That's the same with everybody. When I talk to you, there's a lot of things I wouldn't expect you to say. And that's what's beautiful about getting to know you. But my point with this is, and I'm sure you feel the same way at some level, right? Because you see people notice you, you look different, right? And you can like see it, that look on their face, right? They don't quite know how to interact with you.
Sure.
And guys like me, and you're probably the same, right? We just take the conversation over, right? Engulf them and just be like, hey, what's up? Oh, nothing, you know, like, you know, where are you from? You know, you're tall, you know, you're short, you know, like whatever. They make some observation, right? You're like, correct. You're right. Yeah. Like, I can't tell you how many people come up to me and go, my gosh, you're tall. And I always just go, oh, thank you. Like, I don't know what else to say to that. You know, it's like my whole life, like every day. But that's interesting, right? And I kind of pose that question to you. Like, do you see that in people? Like, do you see people deciding in real time how they're going to interact with you based on your looks?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe if you've been in a situation like you and I have, you create a sixth sense, or you're just more aware of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because people who haven't had that attention just don't notice it.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be funny because I've dealt with it my whole life, right? And I've had that. And no matter how many surgeries, I think I'll still always have a unique look.
Yeah.
And I'll be with buddies. I mean, I had a buddy message me and he's been my childhood buddy. And he messaged me because he saw something online about me telling my story. He's like, dude, I had no idea. I had no clue. I'm like, interesting. And that's not bad. It's not good. It's not really anything. It's just what it is, right? And I'll still be with people and who aren't maybe around me all the time, and they just will have no idea, but I'll notice it.
Yeah.
And I it's not like I'm looking for it to be a victim. You just notice it, and then, like you said, you just control that however you want to control it, and you take it into perspective. But the older I've become, and the more the wisdom I have, I think you gain wisdom after years of living, right?
Yeah.
Of tested living. Then I've realized how much of a gift it's been. Now, people listening right now are like, that's BS, you little sparkly fairy. Stop lying, right?
Yeah.
But truly, it's been a gift, and this is why. I have the opportunity to speak on a lot of cool stages. I would have never, ever had that same opportunity in the same way if I would have been born without Crouzons syndrome.
Yeah.
It's been a cheat code for me, hands down. Especially with social media, when people Facebook, right? Even the name. It's not like my ankle or my knee is distorted or something. It's not like I don't have an arm. It's literally what you see in the mirror. One of my good buddies who lives in Arizona, phenomenal human, Nike athlete, the only non-competing Nike athlete actively.
Oh, wow.
And he got a movie deal that they're going to be doing his movie with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And he doesn't have a leg. I competed against him in college. But if you look at him from Facebook, no different. A handsome dude. So for me, my cheat code has been, dude, you scroll through social media, boom, you pause. You look and you assess what you're going to do next. And so it's been a complete cheat code for me. And I've had mentors tell me that, and they're like, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have an opportunity. And I hid that opportunity for the longest time. The talent, like they talked about in the Bible, it was back then money. I grabbed my money that I was given to invest, and I shoved it under a freaking rock, and I said, don't touch it. The blessing that I was given, the gift that I was given of Crouzons syndrome, my superpower, I freaking took that cape that I was given to fly, and I put it like in the corner of my house, and I'm like, don't freaking uncover it.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to know that I have superpowers, right? Or in Superman, I would just stay in the freaking phone booth.
Yeah.
I would never open my Superman shirt, right? Because if I did, maybe if I did do the Superman shirt, maybe they would think I was sloth, right? Because he had the Superman, and everyone, they think I look, But, and it was like within like the last 10 years, and I'm 40 this year. I'm 40 in the next couple months. And it literally for like 30 years of my life, probably, I tucked that, hid that, and didn't want to flex like me. And then just with time and with positive self-talk and positioning of perspective and a lot of mental work for myself. I've never had a counselor or anything like that. I've had coaches.
Yeah.
But finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just own it and just run with it.
Yeah.
And it's been great. I've always had confidence, I would say, but there's just been layers of that and how I was willing to just engulf who I am, right?
You know, one thing that's funny to me, like obviously, so we first met technically over Zoom, right? We're in these Zoom calls, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know if you do this, right? But like I'm on a desktop, right? So I kind of click through the first couple times, right? And look at dudes and learn their name. And I was trying to like make sure, that's how I was trying to learn everyone's name basically, right? Because, you know, you get in our big group of 50 guys, everyone's trying to meet and you're like, hey, my name's this, and this. And it's like, okay, I'm going to remember 2 of those, right?
Absolutely.
And so on the Zoom calls, I'd go through and I would just learn people's names, including yours, right? And I mean, the first time I saw you, right, you look different than other people, right? I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to like talk to him one day, like in real life, you know, because you can't really judge anyone until you actually meet them, you know, sit down with them, break some bread. And now that we've got,
I agree with you,
yeah,
but that's not what always is done.
Oh, for sure, it's not.
So the way you say that is very unnatural, and that's what makes you unnatural.
Yeah.
Because what you just said is not normal.
Yeah.
I wish the world would do that.
Yeah, me too, actually.
But that's what makes you who you are, man.
Yeah.
So keep going, though.
Well, thanks, dude.
Yeah.
but no, I mean, that's exactly what I thought. And then, you know, the more we interacted, you know, then we became accountability partners, probably the easiest partners we've had, right? Because how you doing? Great. You too? Good.
Dude. All right, smashing it.
Like it's all positive. But to me now, the most distinguishing thing about you is your voice. Because when I hear your voice, I just instantly know it's you, right? And I mean, honestly, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I have this syndrome. And it's not like I don't notice it, but I don't notice it, you know, because I think we know each other, right?
Yeah.
At some level too, it's like people are just like, yeah, that's my friend Mark, you know, they'd be like, yeah, that huge guy's my friend. You know what I mean? You kind of just, as that personal connection hits, it's more like, no, yeah, I can hear his voice, or I can anticipate the way he'd answer a question, or, you know, and actually when I first started in the walk group, I was pretty atheist. And so, you know, you would talk about Jesus at more frequent clip than other people, right? I'd be like, oh, Ben's definitely into Jesus. You know what I mean? And so, but it was, I love that was you, right? You were just like unabashed, just, yeah, this is my thing, you know, and Jesus, you know, died for our sins. And I was like, oh, okay. Like he's talking about that in the Zoom call, you know, like it was interesting. And then the more I got to know you, it's like, yeah, it's because it's part of his personality. It's part of the way he perceives the world and how he shares his message. And so I think now that, I mean, I guess my point is the more I got to know you, I just like, it's your voice and the things you say or how I recognize you more than, you know, your face or your even being in the same room. You know, it's
a Rocky Balboa voice, huh? Adrian.
Yeah. You could probably do that good. It's just distinct. You know, I probably have a distinct voice myself, but you know, I don't know. Like, I might be a voices guy too. I'll tell you a funny little story. So we're at Universal Studios like 15 years ago, and we're walking down that little boulevard, you know, and I was like, oh, I can hear John Stamos' voice. And my wife was like, what? And I go, I can hear John Stamos' voice. And I looked around, and sure enough, he was like right there.
It was him.
Yeah, I like sat down at a restaurant, and I go, hey, go over and introduce yourselves to him. And so the 2 girls I was with, my wife and her friend, right? And I stayed back with her husband, my friend's wife's husband. And they roll over, then they go, hey, are you John Stamos? And he like looks up, he goes, yeah. They're like, hey, can we get a picture with you? So
are you
they take a picture, they come back over. My wife's like, how on earth did you hear his voice? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just aware of my surroundings. But you know, it's such a distinct voice. I was just like, oh, it's John Stamos, like right there. So they tease me relentlessly about that, how I picked John Stamos' voice out of the thin air.
Yeah, it's the ability. That's funny to know that and not even see him.
Yeah, I didn't even see him.
Boom.
Yeah. He was in a hat, you know, with glasses trying to hide.
Trying to hide. He's like, you can't hide your voice, baby.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you say what you just said, because my buddy was the same way. That same buddy that said, hey, I didn't know about any of this. And then he told me this. He's like, I never saw a difference. That's funny.
Yeah.
But he was with me. We were in like preschool together.
Yeah.
And so for him, it was like a normal thing.
Yeah.
And because I chose to show up normal, I show up, and I hate saying that. Even like right there, I kind of cringe. I'm like, show up normal. How freaking lame is that?
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I told you, like, I just wanted to be normal.
Well, you probably wanted people to treat you like anybody else, right?
Yeah. And that was the thing, like, not stick out. I'm like, if I could just be normal, and then eventually I'm just like, screw normal, man.
Well, and there is no normal.
Yeah.
I mean, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, pick every person you know. No one's normal. I'll tell you, I don't think any one dude wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm pretty normal. I think most guys wake up like, freak, dude. People got to deal with me again. You know what I mean? And even me, dude. I mean, my personality, I have some polarization in me, right? Like, I think to the masses, people end up liking me, right? I don't think people have a lot of bad experiences around me, right? But I think sometimes I can be too much for people, and I can wear on people because I'm pretty unrelenting, right? You know, like I'm free of my opinion, and I'm not as polite as I probably could be. You know, if I'm saying things nice. But
let me give you a perspective.
Yeah.
You are absolutely a big personality because I feel like you, and this is my opinion. Everyone has their opinion. Because you don't hold back.
Yeah.
And some of the people, I believe, that would hold the, he's too much, inside are desiring to release who they are.
Yeah.
And oftentimes what I find in life is that feeling of, why can't I do that? Why can't I put myself out there? Why can't I release? Mark's doing it. And why can't I do? He's too much. That's too much.
Yeah.
He should be more like me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And oftentimes, so I would walk very carefully with that belief because that's a little bit limiting belief. And that's what I thought when I was younger. And granted, there's a fine line.
Yeah.
And I believe people who think that they're bigger than life, let me say this. I got to say this the way to where this is understood. Because I believe we are so big. I believe like we're created to be massive in an impactful way. But the moment we believe we are more than and holier than and better than other people is where we cross the boundary of respect for other people or disrespect, right?
Yeah.
That's when it changes. We see that with some of the people who get the notoriety and the marketing and the attention, like superstars, Hollywood, movie stars, singers, or whatever, right? Who get a lot of attention, and then they just become, they can be just schmucks in some way. So I think there's a fine line. Let me say that. Going back to living and flexing you, there are going to be people, you're too much.
Oh, yeah.
While they're playing small. But as people play small and are afraid to, because of the fear, because of the fear of failure, of not being enough, because if I open up and I actually flex who I think I am, what if it's not liked?
Right.
What if it's not accepted? I might as well just not put myself out there.
Yeah.
That was me. I did that. And I choose to buy into that victor or victim mentality every freaking day. And I bet people that wake up are like, Mark's a victor every day. He has no challenges. He has these things. Everything seems to be going well for him in family, in whatever it is, right? In business, in life. But that's such a freaking scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
And so, dude, just keep living big because it's such a shining light and a lighthouse to so many people to how they can be.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear too, like my thing personally, honestly, if people are like, he's too much, I'm like, okay. Like, that's my, when I feel pity on people, right? Because I agree with you. It's more of a wound that they're seeing that they're not kind of fulfilling, right? Because the guys that are with me that are like the same as me, that are authentically them, like, dude, you can't stop that, right? You get 10 of us in a room and it's just like, holy cow, everyone wants to be there. It's amazingly attractive because guys are just themselves. They're talking, they're laughing. You know, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter your politics. It doesn't matter. A whole bunch of stuff doesn't matter because everyone's just present in the moment, being themselves and being big.
Yeah.
And it's like really the key to success, right? I mean, how many guys are we around that, you know, they want to make more money, they want to love their wives more, and they want to be better dads, and it's like, then be yourself. Like, stop. The energy that people waste not being themselves is bananas. Even in our group, man. I mean, I look at some of these guys and I'm like, this is your opportunity to participate at 100%, and this is done one day, just like life. We're all going to die one day.
Yeah.
And like in our men's group, this will be over. It's a 2.5 year long commitment. When it's over, it's over. Sure, some of us will keep in touch. Social media will make that really easy for a lot of us, right?
Sure.
But it's the only time you're going to be with these 50 bros, whenever you want to be, all the time. And I just think if you're not, that's why I love showing up to the Ludices just 100%, right? It's like, let's go. You guys can sleep on Sunday. You know, it's Thursday night now. We're going to have some fun. Like it's like we've chosen to be away from our families, the most important things to us, right? We've put work on pause, other relationships on pause, and we go off to these things. And it's like, let's go hard. Let's karaoke. Let's do this. You want to talk about stuff, hard stuff, easy stuff? Like, let's make this freaking weekend worth it. At least that's just how I show up to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's a container for them to show up and know that everyone's a work in progress, which is, it's that way for everybody. And the moment you think that nobody else is a work in progress is the moment you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And to realize that nobody else can be you is when you should really have confidence in flexing you.
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there. Nobody has your perspective. I was just talking with Adrian about this yesterday, is it our buddy, right? And I'm like, dude, we just passed 8 billion people in the world. I wish we had 8 billion different perspectives that were voiced. I have a mentor, you've probably heard this, but I have a mentor that told me, he's like, Ben, what's the most expensive piece of land in the world? And I'm like, Dubai? Like, I don't know. Like any oil country? I don't know. Yeah. And Saudi Arabia? And he's like, good guess. He's like, it's the graveyard. I'm like, what are you talking about? The graveyard? It's a sick joke, man. He's like, follow me. Listen to this. The cure for cancer is 6 feet under right now. The wealth and the treasure of the thoughts that were never spoken or believed to have been put out there because of fear are now in the grave, never to be told ever again. Jim Carrey, I just saw this again. I've seen it a number of times. He's speaking at a graduation for a college, I think. And he talks about his dad. Have you seen this? Oh my gosh, dude. He talks about his dad. He's like, yeah, you guys see me. I mean, he's one of the funniest, most iconic comedian actors in the entire world, in the history. Jim Carrey's phenomenal. He's so funny in so many different ways. And he's so real so many times too, like in the Truman Show. I mean, so iconic in the flexibility of what he can do. But in this moment, he's like, you see me, right? I've had the opportunity to take stage and be in camera. You guys never saw my dad. My dad was the funniest dude in the world. He was so funny. I got my humor from him. And he said, but you know what's sad? My dad always had a dream to be a comedian. But he never, ever believed he could do it. And so he stayed in his assembly line job, went to the warehouse, to the factory like the people in the mid-1900s did. They started and they ended there. And he went and he reported 9 to 5. Even though this comedian, massive, gigantic of a human was inside of him. Yeah. Like ripping to get out. But he shut his freaking mouth, would joke along the assembly line every now and then. people would crack. I'm like, dude, you really got some? Yeah, whatever. And he said, if my dad would have just realized it, then the world would have been different. And so it's interesting. The people who are out there, I mean, me in my life, it was realizing that this big monster of a man could come out, and I could be loved, being Ben Care 1.0, and I didn't have to be Tommy version 2.
Yeah.
And so the more we see those 8 billion perspectives, the more this world is going to be so beautifully colored, right? And it's going to be so beautifully, the stories are going to be told.
See, I love that because you hear the word, and you've heard the word diversity for a long time, right? Diversity of that, diversity of this, diversity. We need diversity, right? When I first experienced diversity myself is when I applied to law school. And because I'm white, I got denied, white, male, there's all sorts of reasons why I didn't get into it. 6'7". Yeah, little lived experience, I guess, you know what I mean? And, I remember it was funny. I applied to the University of Texas. Okay. And Texas is interesting because I think half the students have to be from Texas, right? Then the other half have to be women. And there's a percentage that have to be black. And then there's a percentage that have to be African-American or Native American, sorry. And by the time you really whittled it down, because only accept, 150 people, 180 people into the program every year, right? And by the time I looked at that, I was like, oh, I am one of 5,000 dudes competing for 4 spots. I had zero shot in hell of getting into there, right? And it kind of put me in this thing where I was like, diversity, man, this it feels unfair, but then it also feels like whatever, if that's their rules, that's their rules. It's kind of the way I was raised. And then I realized diversity is not color. It's not race. It's not where your parents were born. It's thought. What we really want in life is diversity of thought.
Love that.
Or perspective, right? Because you and I, we could bring a ton of diversity into a conversation. We're both white. We're both male.
Sure.
Born and raised in Utah, right? Both of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. But, depending on our experience, so look at the experiences that you've had versus the ones that I've had. We combine those two together. We start talking. It's a very diverse conversation where we would both learn a ton of things. It's why I get annoyed with the social justice warrior movement, all these little stupid movements, right? Because I look at these guys and I'm like, you guys are all a bunch of echo chambers running the streets, Yeah. You're not diverse at all. Yeah.
I love that. And I love people that actually come in and are pretty dynamic in their thought.
Yeah.
I love to have the conversations that are just not normal.
Yeah.
Dude, all right, let's talk about that. Oh, you want to talk about conflict? You want to talk about something that's totally like a faux pas? Let's go, baby. And understand that they have that and that came from somewhere. And then I want to learn how that came. For an example, how did that affect you? Being rejected. Dude, that's a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah. Studying
everything. My dad's an attorney. And so I get that. I thought about doing being an attorney, and he talked me out of it. He's like,
good dad.
Yeah, he's like, man, I don't know if this is your. He's like, no. He's like, you have a different calling. How did that affect you? And then you run something pretty iconic. I mean, dude, I see you put stuff out there, and I would love to get to know you more and how you got into it, because it's a super niche, unusual industry, let's say.
Yeah.
There's a fraction of a percent that even know about it, let alone know how to do it or how to get into it. Tell me this. You went down the path of being an attorney, and this is what I freaking love. Be a doctor, I want to be a police officer, I want to be an attorney, fireman growing up, right? Yeah. A lot of people move to some of these for the monetary opportunity. You get rejected. I want to know how you got rejected, or after that, what happened to get you to what you do now?
Yeah. Well, it's a long story, but I'll cap it a little bit. So I ended up getting into law school. So I got into Texas Tech. And so when I put my money down, you have to like put money down for your, what's called your seat, right? You know, I think it was like $250 or whatever. And my dad came to me and he said, "Hey, I don't know what your plans are in the future," which I was looking at him like, "What are you talking about?"
Just got into law school.
You know, I just studied for the LSAT for 9 months every day when I'm working full time and finishing college and being married. And I'm like, how on earth? That's all I freaking do is prepare for law school, you know? And so I didn't say much. I was like, "Oh, okay." You know, and he goes, "I just think it might be wise for you to work in the family business for a year or two." Right?
Right after you got accepted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I had been really struggling with, because in my mind, I run scenarios out, is how I kind of put it, right? So like, for example, like when I know someone, I'm going to have conflict with them, right? Like I will think, okay, if I say this, how will they respond, right? If I say this, how are they going to respond? And I will spend 15 minutes fantasizing in my head, or whatever you want to call it, right? Anticipating the future. And which makes me very comfortable having conversations with people that are just off the cuff, because there's a lot of patterns and, you know, language. But I was really struggling with, because I know that if I went to Texas Tech, which was probably ranked 80th, right? And in Texas, they're probably like the third best law school, or fourth, or who knows, right? And I'm like, crap, if I'm not in the top 10%, then when I go into the private sector, right, or into the career side of it, I'm going to start way low in the totem pole. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that I'm going to have to work 80 hours a week, 70, 80 hours a week. And that's like legitimate hours. You know, you got to bill them out and do stuff for clients and just like crawl my way up to this thing. And I'm looking at it, and, you know, hopefully this doesn't sound arrogant, but I'm like, it's going to cap out at like $400,000 or $500,000. Right. Like a really successful partner, that's about what they make, you know, obviously depending on the the firm. And I just realized, I'm like, dude, if I get into small business and do entrepreneurial things, I can freaking crush it. Because I've always believed that I'm like insanely capable. And so I said to my dad, I go, you know what? It's probably a good idea. I'll do that. Right. And I went home and told my wife, and my wife, bless her heart, right, has always just supported whatever I want to do. You can call it wisdom or her being crazy, right? Because there was definitely not a future laid out for us.
Wow.
You know? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And she's like, okay, great. Yeah, if that's what you think you should do. So then my dad makes me, I was supposed to be the operations officer. I was a project manager who was going to upgrade me to that, or not upgrade.
And what was the family business?
So it's the athletic equipment portions. So it's the bleachers, the gym divider curtains, scoreboards, backstops, volleyball stuff, pickleball stuff.
Wow. Cool.
And basically rec centers and schools throughout the country. And so he announces me as president of the company in 2007. I was right after I got out of college. And
right off the bat.
Right off the bat, boom.
Wow.
And then I just became responsible for all sorts of stuff. And my dad, it wasn't like he was absent per se, but it's not like he mentored me either. You know what I mean? There was never like, hey, come to my office, let's break down the accounting reports, let's really go through these, and I'll teach you everything I know. I mean, my dad's more of a like, I'm like, hey, Dad, how do you do this? He goes, I don't know, figure it out. Well, that's kind of my dad's way of doing it. And that's actually how I train people. And it's hard on people, right? Because I'm like, how do you not know this? Like, I can't dumb this down because I'm like in the middle of this all the time, you know? And I told him there was 11 things that I wanted to do. That for me to stay, there was 11 things I wanted him to do for me, right? One of them was he had to pay for me to get an MBA eventually.
Why was that? Why was the need for an MBA important to you?
I don't know. Brainwashing.
Okay.
Now that I'm older, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah. No, I thought it was super important. I thought if you were going to be an executive, you have to have one. There's like just all the crap they sell.
Aren't schools incredible marketers?
The best. Oh, they're the best.
Schools,
you want to get in a fist fight with someone, bring up not going to college, dude. It's like, man, that is ingrained in you deep. But, so, and then, you know, part of it was he had to like fire some people I didn't like, right? So we did that, you know, and a bunch of other things. We changed the company a little bit, the way that I wanted to run it, sort of taking on my personality a little bit. And then I wanted to do entrepreneurial stuff on the side as long as I handled the stuff
business.
at the business ADP. It's called ADP and Lemco. And dude, I got into hard money lending. I got into private equity. I got into payday loan companies, invested in real estate, just all sorts of crap. And so just in my 20s, I was 27, I think, 26. I was 26 when I became president of the company. And by 30, I was pretty much done making mistakes. I'd kind of lost some money here or there and realized how things are done. And I underwrote a bunch of deals, and I just learned deal flow and structure. And I was working with my friend who was an attorney. He's a really good transactional attorney and really an attorney in all aspects. He doesn't like to litigate, but he'd be good at it. But
right.
And I just kind of took mentors left and right. And some people knew they were my mentor, and some people didn't know they were my mentor. You know how that kind of goes, right? You get around a couple of dudes. I mean, you learn a ton from them, but you're not really a mentor. And I just, through my 30s, and I turned 42 this year, it's just like, I just started winning a lot. I just kind of understood it. I kind of understood how to invest. So I own a bunch of businesses and have a private equity fund. And I just became a partner at a venture fund, actually with Jimmer Fredette and Alex Bean from Divvy and McKay Dunn and these guys over there at Tandem Ventures. And
I love that.
I love it. I love investing, dude. I'm really good at it. And the thing that makes me good at it is what people need to understand is there's people who are like really risk adverse, right? They're really scared about losing their money. Then there's people who are conservative. Then there are people who are wild, right? They'll invest in anything and they're just like going off of guts and emotions and feelings. And I'm the perfect balance between all that. I'm smart enough not to get myself into a bad deal. Smart enough to structure the deal properly. So if I need to exit it, I can exit it. Or if, you know what I mean? I'm always protecting myself from the get-go. But I'm also like, no, I know we're gambling here a little bit, right? Like I know that and we're not gambling as in like in a casino, but you're like, I'm going to take a risk on you to perform and have this company perform, and I'm going to make a return later, And so that's kind of what's kind of brought me to today. And so, but there's a couple of businesses I operate. The flooring business is a separate business. We do NBA floors, and we do a lot of really fun, cool stuff over there.
Yeah,
we just did the St. George Temple. We're about to do the Salt Lake Temple.
What type of floors in the temples?
All their specialty hardwood. So
you have all the guys who lay all the hardwood.
Oh, I've got 2 guys that have the expertise to do all that, and we hire laborers.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a dying art. It really is. There's some of this wood that's so special. Like we did 6-inch wide Brazilian cherry down in the St. George Temple. It's literally the most expensive wood in the world. And in America, the specification says you're only allowed to lay down 4 inches wide because anything above that, it's too unstable to bow. We slapped 28,000 square feet of that crap down, and it's perfect. Took 10 months, but...
Wow. That's incredible.
But yeah, so my partner who has the knowledge is the best wood guy in the planet. It's just, in reality, he's probably one of 10 guys that just know it in the whole world. And so a lot of people, you flip houses, right? A lot of these guys just have to figure it out, We're not the guys that figure it out like we actually know. And that gives us a lot of power in the market, And
he's fun. The same guy that helps with the basketball floors. Wow.
So my company, we will go nail down floors for people in their gyms. We don't do like a house or, like the kitchenette or something like that.
Yeah,
We only do sports flooring.
Cool.
And but for the big teams, it's all arena stuff. So it's portable flooring. It's just a big brick wall, basically, right? That's how all those panels go together. And so we bring them into our shop. We're a finisher. We do all the art, the finishing, the getting it ready, stacking, packing, and then we send it to them, and their event staff takes care of it.
And they put it together.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we can, but it's expensive to fly us out and stuff. But
yeah,
like the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors, they pay about $1.2 million a year just in labor to do conversions between events. So you've got, because they might have a concert during the day or Disney on Ice or something like that. Then by 8:00 at night, they got the floor out there ready for the Warriors to play, and then the next morning they got motocross, so they break that down. They start bringing all the dirt in. So by 9 a.m. motocross is going on, then they pull that back out of there for a concert that night, and it's amazing, dude. Conversion teams in event arenas they're freaking hard workers, man. So
besides besides, you said podcasting you love, what is a business that you really are enjoying right now? And that's seasonal, I think, too. I think that can change in your life. What's one right now that you enjoy?
Yeah, I would honestly, I would say I enjoy all of them at some level, right? But the stuff I really love is investing. I like meeting with guys, seeing their ideas, seeing where they built their company, jumping in and looking at it and saying, okay, we can fix this, we can fix that. You know, like your capital allocation's completely off on this thing, you know, and kind of really helping them kind of build and grow. Last September, I started a company, the last startup I'm ever going to do, with my cousin. And what we do is we basically do brand management for people. And so if you're going to start a spirit company, hearing you say you wanted to start, you know, Ben's Tequila, right? Like you actually have to kind of sell it to other places before the state will start buying it and put it into the state liquor stores. People don't realize that. They just think they deal with the state and that's good to go. But they're just like any other buyer, right? They want to have some sort of volume before they're going to bring it in, right? Like Harmon's, right? They're going to want to know that there's a demand for you to bring in Ben's root beer or whatever.
Yeah, they want to know sellability.
Yeah. And so, but it's really, I love that business because it's not about the alcohol. See, a lot of people do this and they're just like, oh yeah, I love to drink. And so I want to get into this. I'm like, freaking, the money in this is why I'm in it. Right? Like,
it's a marketing ploy, right? Isn't it a marketing company?
It's all marketing. All vodka is the same, right? Just kidding. But like, I mean, there's when you look at every brand inside each category, you know, like rum, vodka, tequila, whiskey, right? There's a lot of stuff that's all the same. There's ultra high-end stuff that's absolutely ultra high-end, the different ingredients, the way they age it, there's a process to it, right? Tastes different for sure, right? Most of the stuff you go and buy is all the same, especially if you have a vodka you're going to go mix with like orange juice or, you know, Red Bull or something like that, right? Like you don't need premium stuff hitting your tongue. So then it's all down to marketing. It's just brand management, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the thing in the spirit world is a lot of the big boy companies, right? Once you hit 10 million in sales, 15 million in sales, they will buy you between 6 and 10x your revenue. So if you do 10 million in sales and they buy you at 7 times revenue, right? You're $70 million company. I mean, and quite frankly, it's not that hard to move $10 million of spirit, because if you build it right, well, for just alone, if you were to move, you know, if you were to move $500,000 into 16 of the controlled states, right? I mean, you're at $32 million. No,
and
sorry, half of that, $8 million.
And at that point, do they keep the same brand and just own you and take out their competition, or do they take over and?
Both. Sometimes they'll buy brands and bury them because they took too much market share and they have more of a flagship product. No, most of the time they just want to buy up little brands, right? Because if you look at them, they're massive. You know, Bacardi is a private company, $6.5 billion a year in sales. Okay, how much money do they have to allocate to R&D to bring out new products, right? And especially a new brand.
Totally.
Okay,
this is something to get it to move.
Yeah. So, but you got in America, you know, you got 5-10 guys every day starting a new brand. Right, they've got their story and they do their marketing, and then they just wait for those guys to penetrate the market enough. As soon as that little formula works out, they buy it, slap it in their thing, costs them probably 25% what it costs that guy to make the stuff. So instantly they get a 75% bump in profit margin. You're off to the races. And so I kind of look at that spirits company as like basically a private equity pool.
Yeah. And
instead of like diversifying into different industries, we're just buying brands. And so, and we take equity in brands like, you know, Michael McHenry, right? Yeah. We're putting Sunday's best alcohol line, but it's called Brunch Me Hard. So Brunch Me Hard rum, Brunch Me Hard vodka. And so when you go in there and have a cocktail, right, the guy can say, hey, you know, I know you can't come in here every day, but if you want to have these cocktails at your house, run by the liquor store and pick up a bottle of Brunch Me Hard vodka, right? And then out of state stuff in Nevada and, you know, in Denver, they'll be able to sell it directly from their restaurants. So as that restaurant grows, and they're already buying it, right? They're already buying it for their bar, so they might as well buy it through themselves and then sell their own brand. And we're a major market disruptor, like major. And so
in the spirits industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
And it's in a market full of sharks that want to buy. Money's exchanged all the time. There's a lot of money in spirits. And so, but to, you know, long way to answer your question, that's the kind of stuff I love, but I love the business strategy side of it, right? I love the building a plan, executing a plan, seeing how right I was, along that trajectory. It's fun, and you deal with a lot of creative people. That's another thing that's fun, right? You get some creative people that have awesome ideas, and you take some masculine energy with order and, make that company, processes perfect, and you just start running with them. It's a lot of fun.
So if you have a lot of passion, you like that so much, why would you say it's your last one?
Because I hate startups.
Yeah.
I would get into certain things. I'm just going to buy into them. Most of the investments I do, you've got to be in business for a while. You got to be profitable. I'm not in love with I'm building an app, and you want to give me $500,000. It's like, no.
Yeah.
That's not I hate that kind of investment.
Yeah.
Because 1 in 1,000 work,
Yeah.
Do you invest much?
Yeah. Mostly my own stuff because I have control of it. And I would love to see how you underwrite stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a big trust factor, right?
Yeah.
And understanding how that works. But I'm really heavy in the real estate game.
Yeah.
I've done the music industry a little bit. Yeah. We had Justin Bieber and Post Malone booked for 2020. Things turned as we saw, right?
Were you promoting a concert?
We were paying for the concert, and then I had Post Malone for 2 shows on the southwest border and Justin Bieber on the southwest border too, down in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Yeah.
And then 2020 hit, and it was what it was. But we're in. It's fun. It's interesting, but I love when you say you get into stuff and you get so, if it's emotional, then you don't do it, because in real estate it's that way for me. Like, I see numbers and I don't see emotion,
right?
And it's moving parts, and it's allocating how I can get in. Right now I'm big into exit strategies. For example, it was about 1.5 years ago I bought 43 beach condos on the East Coast in North Carolina. And I have 5 exit strategies because it was a hotel motel I bought into with an underlying zoning as a condo. So it's a condo-tel. And I got into that. So if COVID 2.0 hits, I have an exit strategy to sell those condos. So in those 43 beach condos, I got 32 deeds.
Nice.
It's not one deed for 43. I have 32 deeds that I can sell 32 assets out.
Yeah.
And I can sell half. It's like, I call it my pizza, right? My pizza theory, because I love buying pizzas and selling it per slice, selling half the pizza. Dude, I'm going to break it down so much. I'm selling the cheese and the pepperoni and the crust. And dude, I'm flinging the box over here and recycling it for 5 cents or 2. So if I can get in and hedge against the economy and hedge against what the market may be with the economies of COVID or government control or government whatever, then I know there's an exit strategy because I've taken a hit in the past and I've learned from it, right?
Do you do it all in-house? Is it just your money, or do you play with investors' money?
I don't have a private investor. I just have people that come to me all the time and like, dude, I know you're doing this. So yeah, I got millions of dollars on me. But I'll just take it in. I got tons of investors or lenders that just love to lend to me too, right? Yeah. And they're just like, they're like gap lenders or private lenders. Hard money's fine, but you know how it is. That's how you make money, because it's really expensive. Yeah. But once you get a certain track record and you flip 100 or a couple hundred homes and they can see your margins too. And that's what I know about lenders too. I know how to read them. And some people are like, I'm not going to tell my margin. I'm like, dude, all right, listen, I know lenders, and it's the same thing I'll do because I've lent too, is I want my money coming back, number one.
Yeah.
Period. I don't want to lose money. Number 2, I want it to come back with friends. And then we talk about how many friends it's going to be coming back with. And then after that, if you can talk about equity, you can talk about placement, and then you can talk about how active you're going to be. And so I do partnerships too, but all the partnerships I do now, I've learned they got to have money coming in. because it means something different, because I've funded deals before 100% and it's been different. But I love very strategic real estate. I did the Chip and Joanna Gaines type of flips before. Well, like you roll off your couch, you're like, all right, I can make $40K in this deal in 5 months. But that just doesn't last.
Yeah.
Right? HVAC goes out, it's done. But I love exit strategies that, like, for an example, I just bought a motel here in Springville. It's 13 units. I'm going to make it 16 units. And it's what everybody wants, which is underlying zoning of Airbnb. The fantastic thing about that is, because I always base it on COVID. Is COVID 2.0 going to come again?
Yeah.
Let's say it does. Well, in short-term rentals, you can do a 28-day contract that's renewable.
Oh, right.
I have someone living in my asset right now that's been there for almost 20 years in a motel, because it's a month-over-month recurring or recycling or renewing contract.
Yeah.
So they're living there long-term, and they can, based upon the guidelines and regulations, if it's renewable every 28 days. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, if you can gain strategic placement in your investments on me based on how I enter, I gain my money on entrance. And then exit based upon flexibility and safety, then I'm good.
Yeah.
And I buy really good. I know how to negotiate, and I because I've flipped very, very big high end and low end, like down to mobile homes. I'm doing multi-million-dollar homes right now up in Park City and Midway and Salt Lake, right on the golf course. And then I've also have, like, just literally flipping mobile homes. So I've done very little stuff. I've done big stuff, beach condos to storage unit complexes to flipping land, right up in some of the best areas like Red Ledges and stuff like that here in Utah. And then to my holdings are like multifamily stuff to storage unit complexes. I would love to get into land holdings. I think that would be interesting. But anyways, I could talk with you forever about this. We should go down the rabbit hole sometime about that.
Yeah, for sure. How's the stuff up in Park City doing?
Crazy right now. Because the snow, this is the 30-year storm that we were not ready for. I've lost tens of thousands of dollars just on holding costs.
Really?
I literally have 8 foot, like, up to the ceiling of snow. And what it's done is I literally had half of my team have to stay over there during the night. My utility bill is probably almost $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
I have 5 heaters in there.
Right.
In this 8,400 square foot home.
Yeah.
And I just bought it. Extremely good.
Yeah.
And
Did you have you renovated it?
It's a 7-figure renovation.
Oh, wow.
Just renovation. Beyond the purchase price.
So what's it listed right now?
It's not listed.
Oh.
So we're in the middle right now. I got sheetrock's done. Yeah. So I got doors and base and case going in. Here's the issue. I have snow literally up to the windows, and it's leaking in the windows. And so we have to get that out in order to paint. That's where I'm at right now. So it's weather. We're praying for the sun to come out, but it's not looking that way. Yeah. The sun keeps getting overshadowed by the snow. But it'll be a good one. Not as good as what it could have been, a year ago, but
yeah,
it'll be good.
That's a big house. Where's it at up there?
If it was downtown, I'd be selling it for millions. It's it's in the Summit Park area. So right when you come up over Parley's and you start popping down in, you take that first right.
Oh, I've rented a bunch of stuff out there.
Yeah, so it's in Summit Park, and it's up in there, and it's just on a big mountainside, and you have incredible views. It has like 5 different decks, and I added about 2,000 square feet without changing the footprint, because I finished out an attic made it a huge cinema theater.
Yeah.
I finished out some other areas. We got a full gym. I got a two bedroom attached apartment, which is huge for up there. You can rent it for $2,000 probably.
Yeah.
And then, man, we got sauna, steam room, like a little spa area, massive garage, huge mud room for skis, boot warmers, all that type of stuff. I don't know, 4 different laundry rooms or something like that. And this place is big with views. And I made it used to be like a chateau look. I made it completely mountain modern.
Nice. So how'd you buy it? How'd you find out about it? Was it on the MLS or?
No, off market wholesaler.
Yeah.
And I came in and I realized that I used to think like, I can't pay over asking price. No way. I'm not getting a deal. I paid $10,000 over asking to get the deal. And it's been a big project though. I mean, I've had it for over a year and, but man, when you buy it right, you can do that because a brick is a brick. Yeah. Sheetrock. That's going to go up and down a little bit, but that's not going to be what breaks the budget. Yeah. It's going to be your time, your labor, your interest and carrying costs, and then whatever the market does. And we all know the market has taken a shift over the last year. And so I just got really lucky, and I'm just super stingy in how I buy. Yeah. I say no because my emotions don't play in anymore. And so I just say no a lot. And I have stuff that covers my desk and comes across my desk all the time. But I think the power of no has allowed me really good yeses. Yeah.
Well, my friend, we burned an hour and a half already.
It's beautiful.
You believe that?
Yeah, we keep going on, man.
It's amazing how this goes.
I would love to go down the rabbit hole more about just incredible business stuff. That you're just a business genius, dude. I want to hear more about it. But dude, thank you so much for your time and your energy.
Yeah, thank you. However, you do got to give us your best 2 minutes of advice, Ben.
Okay. Here's what I'll give. I could take a lot of time to do it, but here's what I would say. If I was going to give 2 minutes of advice, I would say as quick as possible early in your life, figure out who you are and where you want to be. The moment you find clarity in that, those no's become exactly what I say, incredible yeses. I remember early on, I wanted to play every sport in the world and I wanted to just be a part of everything. Yeah. But the moment I knew what I was born for, I singled out my path. In life, it'll be a different trajectory once you don't bring a ton of other stuff that's not meant to be you in your life. And then the other 2 pieces of wisdom I would have beyond just, understanding how gratitude should play in your life and who that should go towards, the people who love you the most and God. I believe that's so powerful, and that's first and foremost. Things that you have control over is your planning. If we actually planned every week and we designed our life instead of had a life of default, life would be interesting. So Sunday planning is massive for me, and then daily planning is massive. My mornings and how I control my mornings, once I control that and win the morning, I win the day. And then lastly, I'll leave this. I call it the crown code. I'll write a book on this someday. And the crown code is this. It's based on 6 different things. And it's what I call my F's. I say I F my way through life with these things, right? It's my faith, how I have faith in myself and my deity and my connection to that. My family, how I show up for them and how I show up for a husband, a father, and just a friend with my tribe, right? Fitness, my mental and physical fitness. How does that play in my life? And how do I show up for that? Finances. How am I a provider? Am I bringing home like little squirrels or am I bringing home the big freaking buffalo? And then how do I teach my kids to make money work for them and not the other way around? Fun. Man, in life, we got to have fun. You're a guy that's really good at that. And you have fun in life. Enjoy it. Rejoice in the adventure and fulfillment. How are we giving back and having philanthropy and giving and sharing and service be a part of our life? with those 6 things, I feel like I live like a king. Though those are in priority that I like to live by, in the moment of presence, of true presence, living in the present time, in the present moment right now, you have to pick one and live in that. I can't be living right now for fitness. I'm not working out right now. Right now, I'm living in the moment of being me. And you representing your family right now. This is your journal. This is your living legacy, right? And wherever you're at in the moment, live there 100%. But have a guideline, a vision of where that should be and can be. So those things that I've learned in my 40 years of living have allowed me to realize some standards and guidelines to kind of go by and live by, and it's been super helpful that way.
Well, thank you, my friend.
I appreciate you having me on, brother.
I love the advice, and I just think everyone that knows you just knows how genuine of a dude you are, and I love seeing the fire in you. I love when you get competitive. It's like my favorite. Because you're a beast, man. You got a beast inside of you, and you've done well. So congratulations on a good life.
God's good, brother. I appreciate you. I have been blessed, and life's good, man. So I appreciate it. Thank you. This has been absolutely an honor and a privilege.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.